Hello again, welcome back to my channel. Today I thought I would do a bit of a library tour and show you my library. To be honest, I think the ones where you pull out every single book and just show it are kind of boring. So I'll I'll show you a couple of books and talk about them, and also talk about the way I consume books in general. So this is the main bulk of my library. I have a few more books scattered around in my living room, but this is the main bulk of it. Basically all of them are pretty old. These days I tend to use my library the most when I read books because I'm cheap. Basically, I'm cheap and I'm picky when it comes to books. So I don't want to spend a lot of money on books I'm not absolutely sure I will like. So mostly I will get my books from the library and then I will read them. And if I really love them, I might buy a copy. And if I in any way can, I will find it at on a discount or at the used bookstore, so I don't pay full price. Years ago, when I had some more disposable income because I lived in a cheap apartment and had a really well-paying job, I would tend to buy more books, and also books I hadn't read yet, so I could just own them and have them and read them when I wanted. But today I have another job that's not as well-paying, and I also bought a house, so that eats up a lot of my disposable income. So a lot of these books are pretty old, like I said, and I also tend to get rid of books if I don't absolutely love them when I read them. So by far most of these are like 4 or 5 stars, or books I would read again at least, because as soon as I'm done with the book and if I know that I'm not going to read it again, then I get rid of it because I only have so much space on my shelves. The organization of my library is pretty much non-existent. Like, I will keep series together, of course, but that's pretty much it. I don't really have any system like alphabetical or genre or even paperback and hardbacks, because honestly I just put stuff in where they fit, because I have these vintage, I guess you'd call it, boxes, like beer and soda bottle boxes. So not every book fits in a specific box. So I didn't want to like have, if I did it alphabetically and stuff was gonna go here, but it was too big to go in this box, then like what am I gonna do? So it's just pretty much put in wherever there's a spot when I finish a book. This shelf is my TBR shelf, and along with these, and like I said, they don't fit in that box, so they're on top. This is pretty much my physical TBR. I just bought these two on sale, and this one is the 7.5 Deaths of, what's it called? Eleanor Hardcastle, I think it's called in English originally. And I've read this before and really liked it and would like to reread it because it was kind of intense. And then this one I haven't read before, and this is one of the rare occasions I'll buy a book I haven't read. And again, I only bought it because it was on sale, so it was pretty cheap. But then this goes here on my TBR shelf, and this other one, I mean, I've already read it, so I'll just find a spot for it. And here is As Good as Any. So I'll put that in there. And ignore these Ken Follett books. I'm getting rid of those because I DNF'd this one. Infinite World or something, I can't remember what it's called, because I just didn't like his writing style, but they won't fit where I put my books I'm getting rid of, because I sell them on Vinted to try and get just a little bit of money back for them. Yeah, but they won't fit where I would normally put those books, so they're just here. So again, the organization is just non-existent. When it comes to the books I buy, I also tend not to spend a whole lot of money on the books. So I don't really go for special editions and stuff like that because it's just too expensive for me. I'd rather have more books than one book for the same price. And when I do have my books, I don't really mind cracked spines or mismatched series or stuff like that. So yeah, that doesn't really matter that much to me. I think it's more fun to have a library you can see is well used and well loved, rather than, you know, perfect and crisp. This is my bookcase in my living room, where I keep a few books too. So I have some of my favorites. Jane Steele is an absolute favorite of mine. I reread it a bunch of times. I mean, how can you not with that tagline? Reader, I murdered him. And I would say he had it coming. So I also really love the Illuminae series and The Daughter of Smoke and Bone. It's been a while since I read that one, so I might have to reread it and see if it still holds up. But yeah. And this is also some of my absolute favorites. My Jane Austen collection, which is massive because it's like all her work in one bind-up. So, and his Dark Materials by Philip Pullman, I really love that one too. And Pride and Prejudice, that has been with me on many travels, so it's the worse for wear. But again, I like it when you can see a book is well loved. Some Kerouac and some Remarque. I never know how to pronounce that, but these two are actually my all-time favorite books. Pride and Prejudice and All Quiet on the Western Front. When people ask that super annoying question, what is your favorite book? It's these two. And some Dickens I really love, and an absolute filthy copy of North and South. And I feel like this isn't as well known as Jane Austen and Dickens, but it's really good, and I think it deserves a place. And also the adaptation with Richard Armitage, top notch. And here's a dead leaf. Just take that away. And this is my library shelf, where I keep all the books I have out from the library. And yeah, they go here, so I have somewhere to put them and to keep them organized, so I know where they are when they need to go back. So we're back in the main library, and I thought I'd show you a few of the books I really like, so maybe you can see what my reading taste is. Also, as I said, I really like all of these books, otherwise I wouldn't keep them. But some of them, it has been years since I read them last, so I don't know if they hold up. But this one, Jellicoe Road, I read pretty recently. It's a YA novel about a girl who lives at a boarding school, and every year these cadets come, and there's like this turf war between the boarding school girls and the people from the town and these cadets, and they have like a turf war going on with rules and everything. So and then they come together, the three main protagonists, over a incident that happened years ago. I also really like Invictus by Ryan Grodin, whatever. That's the same author as Wolf by Wolf and Blood by Blood, which I really love. 5 stars, and I'm sure they will hold up. Those two are a series of alternate history if Hitler won the Second World War. And there's a motorcycle race, and the winner will get to meet Hitler, and the protagonist is competing, disguised as someone else, because she wants to get in, meet Hitler, and get close enough to kill him. But yeah, this is the same author, and it's very different. This is sci-fi, and it's about time travel. And I remember when I first read it, I was a little bit confused about exactly what was going on, but it came together in the end, so I'm looking forward to rereading this one. And then we have a shelf full of favorites. I'm gonna have to read these ones. They were recommended back in the day by Sarah Without an H, and she said she recently reread them and they didn't hold up. So I'm a little bit nervous because I remember them as being really great, but yeah, we'll see. But I think her reading tastes have really changed as well, and I'm not sure mine has that much. So we'll see if I still like them. From what I remember, I really like them. So anyways, King of Scars and Rule of Wolves were I'd say more like 4 stars than 5 stars, whereas Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom were absolutely 5 stars. And Wild Beauty was my absolute favorite book the year I read it, like 5 years ago maybe. I always say I don't like magical realism except this type of magical realism where it's more magical than real. I don't really like the the realism type stories where there's just like a dash of the magical. I'm like, why? Then just make it magical or make it real. Like if it's just like one tiny thing, then why? But if it's mostly magical, then I'm into it. Yeah. Then we have some classics here, and this one I really love, The House on Whisper Sands by Porrick O'Donnell. I'd say it's a fantasy about a young police inspector. Oh no, he's not a police inspector. He wants to be. Or does he? He wants to figure out the crime that happens, and then he pretends to be a police investigator and ends up actually becoming one. But yeah, and he's just so cute. Such a cinnamon roll character. So I really like that one too. And of course some classics. And some more classics, actual classics. And Chocolate by Joanne Harris it's okay, but I actually like this one better. Blueberry wine, blackberry wine, maybe. Let's see. It's called. What's it called? Doesn't say. Blackberry wine. I like this one better of the two, so I might have to reread Chocolate and see if I want to keep it. Then we have some series up here, Scythe and Two Dark Rains by Kendra Blake. I remember when I first started Two Dark Rains. Is that even the first book? Anyways, I didn't truly love it, but I think it got really, really great towards the end, and it just got better and better. So, and I also really loved The Time Traveler's Wife, but I might have to reread that one because I remember it being like there's this guy who time travels and he goes back and forth in time. I think only like back in time. But then he meets his wife at different stages of her life, and also when like sometimes when he goes back he's 20 and then she's 18 or whatever, and sometimes he goes back and he's like 50 something and she's 10, and I don't know, I just I know it's not really an age gap as such, but it's a little bit weird. But anyway, we'll have to see if I still find it weird. And we have the Raven Boys, and yeah, I really like those two. I didn't love the follow-up as much, Call Down the Hawk and Mr. Impossible, and I still need to read the last one, but yeah, not as intrigued as I was by the Raven Boys. Then we also have this one, The Year of the Horses, I think it's called in English, and it's like sort of reminiscent of what's it called? The Mammoth Hunters, you know, that series, Children of the Earth, I think it's called, by Jean M. Orwell? I don't know. But that classic one where it's like Ice Age times. and this is reminiscent of that, but it's only 3 books, and yeah, I think it's really good. Again, it's been years since I read them, so we'll see if they hold up. Then we also have A Curse So Dark and Lonely. This was a booktube recommendation for the series, and you can see I liked it enough to invest in the entire series, and for once it's a matching one. So, and the Black Sun is also a booktube recommendation, and I still need to continue, but I liked it well enough. It wasn't like blowing my mind, but it was fine. Then we have the Cinder series by Marissa Meyer, and I really loved this one. I think my favorite ones were Scarlet and Cress. And it's a sci-fi series about with what do you call it, retellings of fairy tales, where Cinder is obviously Cinderella, but she's like part robot, I think, but it's really just that she has a robot leg, I think, and that's it. And but how she is discriminated against because of that, and then there's a whole uprising with an evil queen, and yeah, it's pretty expensive, and yeah, I'm looking forward to rereading that at some point. Then we have A Darker Shade of Magic series by V.E. Schwab, and to be honest, I liked the first one, but I didn't love the next 2, so I think I also put these on Vinted, but obviously they haven't sold yet. And like for this one, I'm happy to keep it, and I'm happy to get rid of it, because I doubt I will read them again. Then I have a few books that I might not read again, but I'm keeping them because they were gifts, so I don't want to get rid of those. Some more Dickens, and yeah, this one, the Mammoth Hunters, I was talking about. That's her name here. And then we have The Lord of the Rings. I remember when I first read them in high school-ish, I really liked them, and my favorite was The Two Towers. But I read, not recently, but like a year or 2 ago maybe, I reread the first one, and it was just kind of boring. I know it's sacrilege to say that, but I mean, the whole first bit with Tom Bombadil and in the forest, and just like getting to the place, it was just kind of, yeah, boring. But here we are. Then we have I Wish You All the Best by Mason Diva, which I really loved. I also saw that on BookTube, and also Stay Gold by Toby McSmith, about finding yourself and your sexuality. And then we have Codename Verity, which I recently reread, and it is still an absolute 5-star. It's really great. And Rose Under Fire is the second like companion novel, but it's not really a series as such. It's more of a companion novel, so set in the same world. Then I have some non-fiction, and this section is also non-fiction. So I do tend, like I said, to get my books from the library, and then I don't annotate them, and I really want to start doing that, because I feel like I read the non-fiction, and while I'm reading it, it's like interesting and fine, and maybe I'm learning something, but as soon as I put it down, I'm like, what was it again? So I remember I got the Sixth Extinction, and I annotated that one pretty heavily, I think, compared to what I usually do, but even now I'm like, cannot remember a single thing. And I really want to be more intentional about the nonfiction I read, and like try to retain it in my brain, so that I can actually take something from it, and use it in my everyday life, instead of just reading it and moving on. So the 5 by Hallie Rubenhold is really good, about the 5 women that were killed by Jack the Ripper, and the book focuses very much on them and their lives and what we know about them before they were killed, because like up until very recently, I think it was very much understood that these 5 women were just prostitutes. But as Hallie tells us, they weren't really. They might have been in difficult circumstances, but I think none of them were actually like really prostitutes. They were just in difficult circumstances, and yeah, and the book doesn't even like mention Jack the Ripper. It just tells the story of their life up until then, and then how they were found after, because it's their story and not his. Then I have a bunch of Naomi Klein, because I think she's a quite prolific writer when it comes to like fast fashion and the climate change and stuff like that. We also have the new Jim Crow, which I think I also saw on BookTube. I remember reading this, and I think maybe even I read it twice and I annotated it, but I can't remember anything. And it's not that I want to like spew facts at someone when we talk about whatever, but it would be like to retain just a little bit, but my brain is just not doing it. Then we have the 100 Years War in Palestine, which I got over, or like just about a year ago now, when the whole genocide started, because I wanted to educate myself on the conflict, I would call it that, because I didn't really know enough, and I didn't want to continue not knowing, because I could clearly tell that what was happening was wrong, but people were so up in arms about the Palestinians being wrong, and I'm like, I don't think so, but I need facts to back me up. And this one was really good. I mean, I do remember some things about this, like the injustice of how it all started, and yeah, so I feel like a little bit more confident going into discussions about this and my stance on this. So that's a definite recommendation if you're looking to educate yourself. And I got that recommendation on TikTok, I think, from James Ray, who did, and then a few other people who were recommending books around that time for that purpose. Then we have The Last Shelf, and this is all of my Kate Tiernan. I was absolutely enthralled by her when I was a teenager. And not even a teenager, let's be honest. I was like in my early 20s also. But I read the entire, Sweep series, and absolutely loved it. And I've recently reread, I think, until the 3rd book. And the first book was kind of shaky, I'm not gonna lie. The writing wasn't like amazing. But it got better and better, and I was really interested. I reread them because I think I drew them in my TBR game, so I had to reread them, but now I kind of just want to continue just for my own sake, because I don't know, they're kind of good. And it's also like nostalgia, taking me back to those years where I was absolutely in the world. Yeah, and then she also did the Balefire series, which was fine, but it wasn't as great as the Sweep series, in my opinion. So that is my library, and I'm simultaneously happy with it, and I kind of want more books, but I also kind of want less. Or maybe not necessarily less, but just like not more than this. I don't know. I would, when I see people with those 1,000 book libraries where they just get a prompt from whatever game they're playing, TBR game they're playing, they get a prompt and they can just go to their own shelves and pick a book. I'm like, amazing, I'd love to do that. But at the same time, I know I'm not gonna spend thousands on books I haven't read yet, so I don't think it's for me, but I do think my library works well, and I can usually get the books I want. Sometimes the timing is not great, but that's the price I pay for not paying for books on my shelves. So yeah, do you have a personal library? Is it mostly unread or read books? And do you use your actual library a lot? Let me know, and I'll see you soon.